That was President Joe Biden's farewell address to the nation, ending a half-century career in public service. At times, a muted message, but clear in tone, a dark warning about an America ruled by billionaires, where truth, Biden said, is smothered, and participating in democracy, in his words, becomes disillusioning and exhausting. Want to bring in two smart political minds from Colorado to talk about what we just heard and what it means for our state. Conservative political strategist Sage Nauman, good to have you. Democratic strategist Alvina Vasquez, thank you for being here as well. I was struck by how different the topics of conversation in that farewell address were from the topics of conversation in the presidential race that we just had between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Clearly, he wants to send this message about what he thinks the second Trump term is going to look like. Trump, billionaire buddies, tech bros running America to their benefit. Sage, let me ask you, do Americans care? Do they care who's in charge, or do they care about the result?
I think they do. And here's my problem with his message. When he talks about those in power, when he talks about disinformation, American people who are watching that tonight see a president who just pardoned his son for breaking the law, something that a lot of other people go to prison for. And he says we all have to play by the same rules. It comes across as disingenuous. And I think people do care, but they want somebody who is going to genuinely tell them what's going on. And the American people want to feel like they can trust that person. Joe Biden has not been that person over the last 4 years. And as passionate as he was tonight, and I believe that he loves America, and I believe that he's worried about the future of America, he doesn't come across as genuine. He is not the messenger for this message.
Alvina, let me ask you, it seemed like he really was speaking to what you hear from a lot of Democrats these days, which is just this deep worry, if not outright fearfulness, that a second Trump term is not just another 4 years of Republican leadership, but marks a real turn in America. And it pretends something very dark for the future, where people lose some right to self-determination. Is that message breaking through, and what are Democrats prepared to do about it other than bemoan the situation as he did?
Well, I think, first of all, we're getting a Trump presidency without guardrails. We have a Supreme Court that is obviously in his favor. But we also know the chaotic Trump presidency that was the first 4 years. And so we're all anticipating that could happen again, and probably nothing will get done again. What Trump is benefiting from is a Biden economy that Biden's built, that he will take credit for, a recovery from the COVID economy. And so the next 4 years, who knows, right? There's no consistency. There's no trust when you talk about trust, there's no trust that another Trump is going to bring economic well-being for Americans, which is really what they care about.
I know we always want to talk about the future, but this was a man's farewell address, right, as he leaves office. So I ask you, what do you think Biden's legacy is in Colorado? You will acknowledge that the man loves America and wants the best for America. There are a lot of folks on the American right who believe that he's a traitor, that he should be put on some tribunal. I mean, just truly nutty stuff. How will he be remembered?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, I think history will tell us, give us more clarity on that. But here's what I think. This man spent 50 years in public office. His career started in tragedy. He suffered a lot of tragedies along the way, losing his wife, his daughter, and then eventually his son as well. It's unfortunate that 50 years is going to be boiled down to 4 years of, in my opinion, mental decline, an economy that's just kind of, not quite getting to where people want it to be. That being said, I think that his entire legacy is going to be shaped by Donald Trump. It's being bookended by 2 terms of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump's second term, if the American people think that's successful, guess what? Joe Biden is relegated to a footnote. If people look and they say, look, it's the same old, it's the chaos we experienced in the first Trump term, then people may be looking upon Joe Biden a little bit better 10 years from now. But again, we'll have to see what happens in the second Trump term.
Alvina, the recent passing of Jimmy Carter makes me think that Joe Biden likewise has dedicated his life to public service. He doesn't have the runway that Jimmy Carter had, likely, in terms of years, right? I mean, Jimmy Carter had half of a lifetime to be of service to a country and turned around the country's impression of him. I mean, Joe Biden is going to be judged by what he did over the last 4 years. He leaves office more unpopular than when his predecessor left, having just tried to overthrow an American election and stay in power. That's a pretty damning indictment in terms of job performance.
I believe it is 50 years. I mean, think about where this country was 50 years ago. Women couldn't even get a credit card, right? So we're looking at a completely different country that it was back then. So I think his legacy is capstoned in this past 4 years, but the first 50 years cannot be ignored. A lot has changed since then, from technology to how we receive information to, like I said, women being able to even manage their own finances.
And lastly, just briefly from each of you, do you think that there was a turning point in the Biden administration that ended with where we are now? Him not running again, Kamala Harris losing, Donald Trump coming back to the presidency. Was it the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan? Was it solely about the economy? Was it his decision not to run again? Elvina first, then Sage, please.
I would think it comes down to economic issues. I think one of the things that politicians do is they talk about these big, complex values messaging, but really it only matters what's happening in the pocketbook. And over time, people don't realize how long a recovery actually takes.
Sage?
I think a lot of people voted for Joe Biden in 2020 because they wanted a president that would unify, that would put the fires out, that would turn down the temperature. I don't think Joe Biden has been that president. And obviously we can't fix things like the economy and cognitive decline through a conversation. But if I had to tell him one thing, it'd be even before he was sworn into office, which is recognize that your role in history is to bring that temperature down, to get us on a track where we can be unified again as a nation. Unfortunately, he's leaving office with us more divided than ever before.
The 4-year caretaker role that he alluded to when he was running. Sage Nauman, Elvina Vasquez, thank you both for your time today.
Thank you.
A Coloradan picked for President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet got a Senate hearing today. Oil and gas executive Chris Wright from Denver is up for energy secretary. Wright denies the science behind climate change, and he has dismissed the link between a warming, drying world and wildfires, like Colorado's Marshall Fire and California's devastating fires, saying that that link is hype. Wright is a vocal proponent of fracking. That's how he's made his money. His company, Liberty Energy, works in that sector. Trump actually mentioned Wright's expertise on fracking when he nominated him to lead energy. Wright has said that the well-established link between climate change and more extreme weather is, quote-unquote, fear-mongering. And today, Wright stood by his claim that, quote, the hype over wildfires is just hype.
Given the devastation that we're currently experiencing in Los Angeles, do you still believe that wildfires are just hype?
Sir, it is with great sorrow and fear that I watch what's happening in your city of L.A. and
Do
in
you
those fires.
think it's just hype or not?
Climate change is a real and global phenomenon.
Is it hype or not?
I stand by my past comments.
So you believe it's hype?
Wright's nomination is likely to get through the Republican-controlled Senate without a problem. There are Democrats that are open to deferring to Trump's choice to lead energy. Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper of Colorado, another prominent defender of fracking, said today that he has high optimism that he can work with Wright. Aurora Public Schools will not have internet access for at least another 6 days. The district seems determined to keep kids in school, keep things chugging along, despite growing concern from teachers and parents that the school's security systems have now been compromised. APS acknowledged to our Mark Salinger that the school district's security systems are not working properly.
Aurora Public Schools is making the decision to keep students in class during an ongoing internet outage. An outage the district says has caused security cameras at schools to be, quote, not fully functional. More than a dozen teachers and employees who work at Aurora Public Schools tell me the security systems in the schools have been compromised. They tell me that's led them to feel unsafe in the classroom. The district says they are relying on secure doors, staff presence, and school resource officers to keep kids safe. They say some cameras in specific locations do work, but safety is just one problem. In an internal memo shared with 9 News, the director of health services for the district told school nurses to, quote, use discretion when giving out medication to sick kids. The problem being their health records are all online and inaccessible. In a different memo obtained by 9 News, the superintendent told staff schools will be receiving printed emergency contact information for parents. That's all online as well. And more than a dozen teachers and staff members tell me they had no way of taking attendance until class rosters were finally printed out on paper. The district says the earliest internet will be restored is next Tuesday.
The district is delaying class for the rest of the week for 2 hours to allow teachers time for, quote, planning and printing. That brings us, of course, to our next problem. The printers are mostly all offline and no one can print or make copies because they're all usually connected to the internet. Several teachers I spoke with say they don't understand why class was delayed and not canceled, Kyle.
This is going to evolve by the day. You'll stay on it, Mark.
Absolutely.
Thank you. A bizarre scene following an Aurora City Council meeting last night as Mayor Mike Kaufman flew off the handle, accusing one of his political critics of being responsible for the death of a child. This whole thing's a little convoluted, so I'm going to explain it first, then we'll watch the video together. So you got Mayor Kaufman, former Republican congressman, who confronts former Denver school board member and community activist Aonte Anderson. He blames Anderson for the death of a Denver student, the kid who shot 2 administrators at East High School in 2023 and then took his own life as officers closed in to arrest him. Here's the video.
Pass the law. Pass the law. Say his name. Say his name. Turn me around. Say his name. You killed him.
Out of his face. Who the do you think you are?
You killed that young black man. You killed him. You killed him.
It's not clear what caused Mayor Kaufman's outburst and accusation. Anderson has been at recent Aurora City Council meetings leading protests. You heard the singing there. Protests over the police shooting of a man named Kylan Lewis. Kaufman's spokesperson said that Anderson is attempting to make a mountain out of a molehill and that Kaufman has every right to express his opinions about Anderson's former work as a school board member. Mayor Kaufman told us that his public comments that Anderson killed a child were a quote-unquote manufactured non-issue. Some of our state's wealthiest areas rely on a bunch of working-class Coloradans to keep those places running, work in hospitality, teaching school, providing health care, law enforcement, all the jobs that are essential but don't pay gobs of money. Offering paychecks can be really hard to live on in those super expensive areas. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the Vail Valley Charitable Fund. For almost 30 years, it is how neighbors have taken care of neighbors in the valley. Like when Liam's family struggled with expenses navigating his disabilities, when the Ponce family needed help covering the costs of Carlos's eye surgery. VCCF was there, turning donations into checks. And because it is run for locals, by locals, the work of that nonprofit often includes picking up the phone to actually talk with medical providers they know, negotiating down the bills for other neighbors so that donor dollars go farther. I asked the folks in charge a pretty direct question. Considering all the wealth in the Vail Valley, why aren't these emergency needs taken care of? And their answer was equally direct. They told me that a lot of the people with money don't live in Vail. They just visit. They're not connected to the locals and their needs. It's up to Coloradans to take care of Coloradans. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. Your nearly $14 million in microgiving proves how $5 adds up fast, so as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. 4,000 of you have signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. It means we've started recent microgiving campaigns with more than $25,000 in donations each week. You can use the same QR code or text to get there. Xcel may make electricity more expensive when we're most likely to use it. That's next. Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen, how long till this place turns into Popsicle Town?
Well, we don't have too much longer. It's going to be here on Friday, and we're in store for quite a ride on the Polar Express is what it's going to be. Coming from the North Pole, this cold front will get to Denver around 6 p.m. on Friday, and it'll keep us below freezing for likely 5 days all the way into Wednesday, as the coldest air could be Monday and Tuesday morning. And it's not just the air temperatures, but it's also the wind chills. We're looking at some wind chills here in the -20 to -30 range as we go through mostly Sunday night into Tuesday morning. We could see those wind chills get down there into the -30 range here in the Denver metro area and much of the state of Colorado. We're also going to get some snow with this thing. First round of snow goes Friday night into Saturday morning. We're looking at a good 2 to 4 inches there. It could lightly snow in between, but then Sunday night into Monday, we're looking at another round of likely 2 to 4 more inches of snow. So snow will have an impact as we go through this thing. But when you look at your 7-day forecast here, you see the Express arrives here on Friday. The snow comes in quickly after that, and we stay down there below the freezing mark, likely even past Tuesday into Wednesday. Kyle.
Xcel wants to expand peak hours when you'll pay more for power, and state regulators seem interested in going beyond that. Next. The time of day when Xcel's electric customers pay most for electricity is going to change. The question is how much that evening time, often family time, is going to be at the higher rate. Surprisingly, our Marshall Zellinger found out the state, not Xcel, is recommending the higher rate for later into the night.
It's nice because that is a gas pizza oven outside.
You don't have to pay extra for peak rate electricity when you're using gas to bake a pizza.
Cook them out there without using any electricity.
Lakewood Xcel customer Matthew Steidel has the cheat code to avoid paying high electricity rates. But you can't make a pizza in the patio gas oven every night. The Public Utilities Commission is considering a change to when Xcel charges the most for electricity. Currently, that's 3 to 7 p.m. Xcel wants to expand that to 4 to 9 p.m. in the summer months and 5 to 9 p.m. the rest of the year. But the PUC staff recommends later, either 5 to 10 or 6 to 10 p.m.
Moving it back is only worse. If it was just me, I probably could, but it's 3 kids who go to school. Middle schooler and 2 high schoolers, there's no way that I could change their lives.
We're not expecting customers to completely avoid cooking dinner between 5 and 9 p.m., but we would hope that customers could do things like not charge their EVs during that time or avoid certain heavy energy usage like laundry.
This week, the PUC held its hearing, like a mini trial, where Xcel was questioned by the PUC and utility consumer groups about the proposal to change when it is most expensive to use electricity. Xcel originally considered proposing expanding peak hours to 10 p.m., but backed off of that after hearing from customers.
We've proposed to limit the on-peak window to end at 9 p.m. to make it shorter and to make it not extend, all the way to bedtime.
I'm not going to change when I cook for my family, but those other sort of discretionary choices I have, maybe I'll run the dryer a little later at night.
PUC Director Rebecca White said the decision that the PUC commissioners will make will be based on keeping customer bills around the same cost, while encouraging a change in usage behavior.
Today we have a lot of solar and a lot of wind, and if we can get consumers to just modestly change their power usage to align when the sun is the brightest and the wind is blowing. That's the point.
Math time. The Xcel proposal calls for a lower peak rate than what currently exists and a higher off-peak rate than what customers currently pay. The PUC staff proposal calls for a higher peak rate and a lower off-peak rate. And the math for all of these proposals is supposed to be the same as what we're currently paying, basically. So I don't know how math works like that, but the math supposedly shakes out the same, no matter what the PUC ends up deciding.
How do people know if they should play the game or just opt out and pay the flat rate?
We've done stories on that, but Xcel told the PUC as part of this hearing that they're working on some sort of app or something in their app that will tell a customer specifically to their home if they're better off on time of use or better off opt out. But I had done a previous story where I think they did a test case and it was 20 some odd cents difference between opt-out and time of use.
Well, 20 cents. Thank you, Marshall. Back with your feedback next. For 3 decades, when working class folks in the Vail Valley run up against bills that they can't pay, huge medical expenses, rent, groceries, at times of trouble in their lives, the nonprofit Vail Valley Charitable Fund has stepped in to help. It's neighbors caring for neighbors in one of the most expensive places to live in Colorado. Their small grants have helped families pay for handicap-accessible vans, for surgeries, cover mortgage payments, other emergency bills. Scan that QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get the link to join me in donating to the Vail Valley Charitable Fund. You can give one time to this one cause, or you can sign up, put your info in once to make a monthly donation to support every Word of Thanks nonprofit that we feature. You don't have to put in your info over and over again. You also won't end up on every mailing list in the world. A text tonight, feedback saying, disgusting to hear your guest claim, he's talking about conservative strategist Sage Nauman, that Biden's presidency will be graded by his mental decline, how lacking in human compassion. I'm going to disagree with you there. I think it is entirely fair to assess the cognitive abilities of presidents, and I think that will factor into people's legacies. Consider how Reagan's presidency is now viewed.